Podcasting is not glamorous. Let me tell you that. Especially when you're like starting out. Oh, goddess, you know? Hey, spicy babes. I'm Carlen Costa, and this is the Spicy Fat Podcast. Today, let's just kind of like talk and hang out. All right. I want to talk about some stuff that I've been like seeing in my private practice as a psychotherapist, some stuff that I've been talking to my friends about. And just, I wanted to reflect with you a little bit on my journey because, every once in a while I do an episode that is about me. Every once in a while, actually, every episode has been a lot about me. And I kind of want to reframe a little bit as to how I got to here and where I'm at now. But I want to start by showing you, if you're watching this video, you'll see it on YouTube, because I have this like money tree. Okay, see this giant? It's not giant, but it's a pretty big money tree. And I have this money tree sitting on my desk in my new mental health and therapy center I call Mothership London. And I was staring at it while preparing for today's episode. It's almost 2 feet tall now, and it has branches on leaves extending from it. There are 2 trees growing together, wrapping around one another in a seemingly perfect harmony. Neither is taking up more space than needed, and both of their trunks are thick and strong. I actually bought this tree a year ago, but when I did, it was only 6 inches tall. And one of the little trees on it was actually looking like it was about to give up. Like it was just like, I don't want to do life anymore, I don't think. And the other little tree, their leaves were really damaged. I looked at it at my local plant shop and found it on the discount rack. I picked it up and decided that I wanted to give it a new home. And today, I noticed that 2 new leaves are sprouting from it, joining the other 20 leaf blooms in a perfect full fan. And wow, I thought to myself, when I bought this plant, its state of living resonated with me. The leaves were damaged. It looked like it was maybe going to give up, I kind of felt that way about myself. I had just changed my life again. I had just moved again, and I was feeling uncertain about my future, a little rough around the edges, not really wanting to be seen, having transitioned many relationships as a fall out of the pandemic, and feeling a little discarded by those who were supposed to love me. I had put myself and my potential on a discount rack. I knew I was doing this. I knew I had put some parts of myself on hold because in some of my periodic hyperarousal states, those bursts in between, I can't do anything and I really need everyone to leave me alone. I would try to do something or start a project or create work that reminded me of my most recent version of myself. The version of myself that I have lived and are familiar to me. I tried to put on a couple workshops like I used to do. I tried doing some fun things like I used to do. And everything either fell flat or didn't feel good at all. What the fuck am I doing? I thought to myself at that time, I was like, what the fuck am I doing here? And if you've read my book, Love, a woman's guide to not fucking settling, then you're familiar with my mindset when I find myself sitting on my kitchen floor with a joint in one hand and a cute as fuck dog in the other. I'm not hopeless in these moments, but rather uncertain. Because for me, feeling unsure or uncertain is a discomfort in my body and in my mind that I really dislike. I was a parentified child with emotionally absent parents. So this means that I'm really fucking used to doing things on my own. In fact, I've been making my own lunch since I was 6 years old. I went from making PB&J sandwiches for myself to luncheon meat with ketchup for my sister. I was 6, 7, 8. Like that's all I had the capacity for. So if you're weirded out by that, remember that it was the late 80s and the early 90s. I was 6 and my skill for food prep wasn't exactly developed yet. But when you learn to feed yourself, you also learn that everything you nourish yourself with becomes your responsibility to manage. I also learned in that time that every bad decision or one with unintended consequences I made are my responsibility to accept, but not for the accountability of others, but rather for the ownership for myself, because at least it was me making those decisions. Certain types of childhood chaos breeds a need for autonomy, especially when what and whom were supposed to be safe and keep us safe didn't. Maybe you'd call this the development of an avoidant attachment, but I call it survival. My need for autonomy and independence has actually borne a ferocious ability to bet on myself, irregardless of the outcome. I've been feeding myself since I was 6. There isn't anyone who is going to take food out of my mouth, you know? I quickly learned that whatever I needed or wanted in this world, I only had myself to depend on to make it happen. And you know what? That sentiment has fed my neurodivergent mind really well. I became a jack of all trades and a master at some. But when you learn how to depend on yourself and to trust yourself, you hopefully also let yourself become curious about what your limits and capacity are. So you learn how to take care of yourself in the best way that you can. But there I was, on my kitchen floor. Again, the first time when I kicked out the man I thought I was going to marry was the first time I found myself on the kitchen floor. It's the story that I wrote about in my book, Love. The second time I found myself on my kitchen floor in a similar scenario was after my sexual assault. And now I found myself there again after having moved 8 times in 10 years. And not having a clue in the world what I wanted for in my life. Have I become my own worst enemy? I thought this to myself as I've been grieving my uncertainty. I mean, I have a new boyfriend who I love immensely, but have been terrified of imprinting him with my pain. I have a thriving private practice with incredible clients who are shifting, growing, and learning to love themselves and others better. I have a smaller group of friends now, but the love is fierce. I have a small backyard and big boundaries set like the Great Wall. Life was seemingly pretty good, but it didn't feel complete or real or ready or something. It's like missing some flavor, you know? I'm a big person for flavor. That's why this podcast is called Spicy Fat. It's not only about my neurodivergent mind and a reflection and a reclamation of my body, but it's also because the stuff I want us to talk about will fill you full of flavor, will fill your mouth with flavor. Will be delicious morsels of reflection, you know? There's this space of transition from one chapter of our lives into the other that I often talk to my clients about, not my parents, that I talk to my clients about. And I call it liminal space. Liminal space is the uncertain transition between where you've been and where you're going physically, emotionally, and spiritually. To be in a liminal space means to be on the precipice of something new, but not quite there yet. And this space may evoke feelings of eeriness or discomfort because they are not meant for staying, but rather for passing through. So think empty parking lots at night, hallways, stairways, and abandoned malls, all liminal spaces. But our lives also have liminal spaces. It's the time spent between one certainty to another. And the discomfort, though, ooh, the discomfort. The discomfort is really real. So much so that we tend to discredit or rage through many of these days because we just want things to make sense again. We just want things to get to where we are going already. You want to just be there already. I know you can relate to that feeling. And as a neurospice girl, patience, my loves, patience isn't necessarily my virtue or my skill set. But it's a skill I work really hard at daily. So if things don't make sense, it's very frustrating to me. And this is all good. Like, we're talking about liminal spaces. We're talking about how I was feeling uncertain. And it was all such a trip. But what I'm asking you to reflect on is, how do you work within your own liminal spaces? And maybe you're in one right now. Because the good thing is that if you let yourself unravel from who you think you should be, and start allowing the next version of you to be revealed, you work through liminality and observe it with gratitude for the ease it actually is. Because liminal space isn't supposed to be hard. That's been my new lesson. To be patient with the in-between time. So that's what I've been trying to learn. That's what I was trying to learn as I sat on that kitchen floor for a third time. Learning how to be a little bit more patient. Learning how to be a little bit more accepting that I don't know where I'm going yet. But that's also okay. So at that time, I stopped working out like I had been and embraced moving like I need to. I stopped eating like everyone told me to and started learning what my body looks like when it's hungry and listening to it without judgment or criticism, or listening to how it speaks when it is craving. I stopped fucking for everyone else and started relearning the new tempos of my pleasure. And I also stopped shitting all over myself. So here's a little mental health moment, though, if you're listening, okay? A little fun exercise that I'm going to invite all of my beautiful spicy babes here to practice and to try. If you're currently seeking more certainty or assertion of self in your life, or feeling like people are misunderstanding you, or having, these big blow-ups around communication, I kind of want you to try this exercise. For 1 week, I want you to try and not use the word should. Tell all your friends that you're doing this. Tell your friends, tell your partner, tell your parents, right? Tell everybody that you are working towards not using the word should in your life. And let them call you out. Let yourself call yourself out, because that's the point. Authentic knowing is nurtured by making decisions and trusting that irregardless of the outcome, you got you. And that includes knowing when you need to ask for help. And if you say the word should, if you try this like little exercise here, it's like, Carlen, I'm going to try to not say the word should this week. Because when I say it, I don't think I'm meaning what I say. Like, I should go to the gym. I should eat better. I should call my mom. But you don't. Or you do, and then you feel guilty about it. What if you could shift that? What if you could start to learn the skill and embrace not shoulding all over yourself and starting to speak with a little bit more assertion and a little bit more definition that reflects back to you how you're actually feeling? So try this exercise. And if you say the word should, stop, pause, take a nice big deep breath, and reword what you're saying to mean what you say. Try it. You might learn something about yourself. Then send me a little message and tell me how it went. Because I want us to fast forward to today. Because here's me right now. You're listening to me right now. And the money tree now thriving on my desk after this money tree had been discarded, discounted, and hiding in the hope of being seen is now in a glossy white clay pot with fresh soil, crystals of amethyst and citrine, and a mini mushroom statue. Okay? I myself am sitting in my new downtown mental health and wellness center that I self-fund, feeling pretty good, proud of myself even, and realizing that my new level of self-acceptance and new potential is here. And I'm thinking to myself, and I'm looking at this tree, and I'm saying, hey, look at us. Look at us. We figured it out. I wanted to share this with you today because I hear a common narrative coming back into cycle with my clients. I think every therapist or practitioner can attest that very similar presentations or symptoms or patterns will come through in waves, like when it rains or pours types of thing. So what's the presentation that I'm seeing amongst my clients right now? That's a desire to find my authentic self. And in my opinion, that statement is a way that we have convinced ourselves, or rather, it's a determined disillusionment rooting as the plague of the self-help section. It's a grift that feeds on the shame cycle of the human condition, meaning that sometimes we feel shame and it's vulnerable, and that's okay because emotions are meant to be felt. Because I don't know if you knew this, but there's no hierarchy to emotions. Some emotions are not better than or more powerful than the other. That binary BS isn't real. There isn't an emotion that is better or more needed or more wanted than the other. Because the point is, we are meant to be in relationship with each of our emotions, not deny or dismiss that they exist because they're hard or uncomfortable. Okay, but how does this relate to wanting to find my authentic self? Isn't that a good thing, Carlen? Like, you're probably listening and being like, I thought finding my authentic self was a good thing. Well, let me tell you, it depends. And ask you, how much are you willing to discredit who you are now, who you've been, and who you've needed to be? That's how we know whether this is a grift of authenticity or maybe just a desire for something new. Because I have this incredibly warm and vibrant client who is in the middle of figuring out herself, okay? As are many people who come to therapy. Therapy is where you get to say all the ugly things and have all the ugly cries and be witnessed with compassionate capacity, okay? So we begin the session and she's talking about all the ways she's learning how to heal and help herself after overcoming a pretty big hand at life. And it was such a big hand at life that it gave her the gift of disembodiment and PTSD. So in session, she turns to me and she says, Carlen, I just want to find my authentic self. Okay, I nodded, However, if you're watching this video or if you know me at all, I have a very animated face, even as a therapist. Okay, some people love it and some people not so much. That's okay. I am a flavor and I am not meant to be part of everybody's taste buds. All right. But in that moment, my face instantly showed that it was perplexed. So she turned to me and she said, "Okay, Carlen, what are you thinking? Because you're giving me some face there." And I said to her, "Why are you searching for something that you already are?" Now it was her turn to gift me perplexion, you know? I don't know if perplexion is a word, but we're rolling with it, team, okay? I don't understand what you mean, she retorted. So I said to her, I said, "Well, like, you're real, right? Like, you're here sitting with me, talking to me about all of the hard stuff that you have experienced in your life and how you survived it. You're a fucking warrior. And I know that the body can freeze, fawn, or dissociate in order to protect itself. But why aren't those responses considered authentic to you? I know they're uncomfortable. I know we wish they didn't happen. I know they aren't ideal, but they are very real and genuine responses from your body, your nervous system. Heck, from like you to you. The way you respond to your pain was and it is authentic. You are already authentic. So, what exactly are you looking for? You know, there's lots of ways that people make money, okay? And feeding you your own fears is one of them. Don't eat bananas. It's too much sugar and you'll die. Don't have sex on the first date. It's going to send the wrong impression and you'll die. Lose weight, look great, and get the man of your dreams before you die. You know, catch the grift? What a shitty way to mismanage someone's emotions and take advantage of vulnerability. The front page of this story reads more like, "Reveal your authentic self. Take this class to be more of your authentic self, or find your authentic self today." Friend, listen. Look in the fucking mirror. Right now, wherever you are, look in the fucking mirror. Do you see her? Do you see that wonderful person looking back at you? That's your authentic self. She's real. She's right there. She might not be living a chapter you're enjoying, but she's making choices about her money, honey, and health that only she gets to make, whether you choose to accept that or not. And convincing you that you are not you is a journey rooted on making money from your shame. It's essentially saying you're not good enough, so here's how to make you better. Or everything that you do, love and touch, isn't real and doesn't mean anything up until you learn my 5 steps to revealing your authentic self. It feels as if my life, when I read these things, when I read these grifting opportunities, it feels as if my life, my survival, my efforts, my tears, my blood, my pain, my joy, or my orgasms weren't authentic or genuine this whole time. Selling me that implies that the life I am and have been living and all of those experiences are also not real or worthy of value. At least not enough to be recognized as a state of emotionality that we ever want to be in, you know, because here's the problem is that authenticity is not just about when we feel happy or powerful or when life feels like it's taken a step that makes a little more sense. Implying that people aren't authentic or aren't making choices or having experiences that are very real, that they still have to do work to be their authentic selves, underestimates and undoes how very real dissociating, freezing, or fawning actually is. with very real consequences like PTSD and the exacerbation of mental health symptoms. Because that's why, we get scared when things get hard, uncomfortable, or too real for ourselves or for the people we love. We haven't normalized the hard stuff taking up space, let alone the compassion for it. Instead, we try to limit our exposure. We hide away. We pretend it isn't happening. And we say things to other people like, "You've changed," or "I don't know you anymore." And then we wash our hands of knowing it and them any further. And that's also why too many meaningful relationships end, because we don't make room for the tough stuff. How one of my dearest sister relationships ended after 20 years because I said out loud with bravery, and I'm going to claim that bravery. I said, "Life is hard." And she said, "Well, you've changed." We perpetuate negatively defining people by their behaviors rather than their hearts and intentions. And that negative and positive or good and bad emotions exist in a binary, and that everything that you are and how you've needed to feel about it isn't real enough or good vibes enough. Fuck, I hate that saying, okay? I hate the saying, good vibes only. It is such an emotionally bypassing statement that nurtures fear and hiding rather than acceptance and real. So, how do we undo this? How do we start accepting that the version I am today is authentic, even if I have the desire to live and love differently? Well, the first step to loving yourself better is to name everything that you are and own it. Know your shit. Know your sparkle. That's your authentic self. Like, here's the exercise. Here's the love work for you. Make an actual list. On one side, put all the sparkles of you. And on the other, put all your shit. Be honest. No one else is going to look at this list, okay? But you then look at the list and see yourself. But also appreciate yourself. Lean into understanding why you show up this way. Then ask yourself, is this who I want to continue to be? Because from there, we can take steps to shift, change, learn, and grow how to do it differently with skills, support, and patience. Because moving into your future and through everything from your past are all just versions of you that you have chosen to become. Life is a choose your own adventure, in case you haven't picked that up yet. And if you hear anything about today's conversation, I hope you hear that. Life is a choose your own adventure of choices, and you get to decide what character you become in every chapter of it. And all of those characters, all of those different recipes of parts of you coming together at different times in your life, all of those are authentically you. And what you are today is just the reflection of the parts of you that you are presently choosing to have a relationship with. So let's grow, spicy babes. And speaking of growing, next episode is all about growing and glowing with plants, though, and mental health. Because in case you didn't know, one of the hats I wear is as a psychedelic-assisted psychotherapist, which means I have some big love for the power of plant medicine and psychedelics for mental health. Next episode, I have an incredible guest who is going to dive deep in with me into the cannabis and psilocybin psychedelic world. I am so excited for you to meet this wonderful human. And I'm really looking forward to sharing some neurodivergent specific information, especially, and how both cannabis and mushrooms can support your mental health in incredible, authentic ways. Check out this episode and catch up on the season everywhere you find your favorite podcasts. So stay spicy, babes. And I love ya. All versions of ya.